Welcome to WP-Tonic Live, episode 52. We have a full panel today, but our special guest is Pippin Williams, founder of Easy Digital Downloads. He's a famous WordCamp speaker, of course. Everyone knows him from WordCamp. And he is the guy you have to pay off to get your plugin certified, right? Is that right, Pippin?
I do help review plugins on WordPress.org.
No, not really. Tell us about your business.
Sure. So I'm a WordPress plugin developer. I've been working in WordPress for about 6 to 8 years or so. I started building plugins somewhere around 2009, maybe 2010, and ended up transitioning to a full-time plugin developer about 4.5, 5 years ago, and now run 3 different plugin businesses. Easy Digital Downloads is the main one, and then pippinsplugins.com, which is a suite of a variety of plugins as well as plugin development services and education, and then affiliate WP.
All right, thanks, Bill. I've solved my technical problem. So thanks, Pippin, for that. I'd like to introduce the rest of the panel. Ladies first. Can we go through Sally first, please? Oh, she is.
Let's let Sally unmute.
I just had to take a minute to unmute. Hi. Yes, I'm not in a witness protection program. I'm only in a dark vapor bar. So I can't get any better lighting, and you will be hearing a bit of sound. Normally, I'm at home in my home office where I do my WPFangirl.com business and most of my organizing for the East Bay WordPress meetup.
All right, thank you. David, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure, I'm in my home office where I run WP Fanboy. Or rather, I run a WordPress development shop. I also organize WordCamp Orlando, and I think I'm our East Coast rep for this group.
Right, thank you. Would Adam like to introduce himself?
No, I'm going to let David do that for me. No, I'm kidding. I am Adam Silver. I run a podcast over at Kitchen Sink WP, and I have a meetup in Los Angeles, there, South Bay of LA, and I'm co-organizing WordCamp Los Angeles this year. I've been to 6 WordCamps so far this year. I'm trying to go for a record.
Wow. Yeah, you've done a lot. John, would you like to introduce yourself?
Which John?
Sure. No, sure thing. Sure thing. I'm John Locke. I'm an independent web developer from Sacramento, California, and I operate as a Lockdown Design.
Oh, thank you. Jonathan, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Jonathan Perez, Surefire Web Services. I teach courses. I do consulting. I haven't organized a WordCamp yet, but maybe that'll be on my list in the future.
Oh, Perez, come on, step up.
Step up my game a little bit.
Right. All right then, Pippin. I like to go through our first question. Basically, I'd like to discuss what major lessons have you learned from being your WordPress development career. Anything that you fundamentally learned looking back over quite eventful career in WordPress, really. Anything you'd like to say about that subject?
Sure. I mean, there's so many different things, big and small, that I think we all learn as we're either building our own businesses, working with others. But one of the biggest ones for me that has really been important recently is that as I've been working to grow the business and to scale better, that if you want to build a successful business that is on a larger scale, look at hiring people early. I spent 4.5, 5 years working solo, trying to build everything up on my own, and if I could do one thing different over the last 5 years, I would probably hire someone sooner, even if it's just part-time.
Yeah. What about you, Jonathan?
To go off of what Pippin said, or something that I learned in my career of development.
Whatever. You want to comment what Pippin has just said, or add something new? It's totally up to you, Jonathan.
Well, one thing that I learned is that business is a whole nother beast besides development. And if you want to learn how to grow a business in addition to hiring, you really need to learn how to run and manage a business in order to scale it, because doing development is one thing, but managing and growing a business is a whole other thing.
So.
Hey, Jonathan, just wanted to follow up. Who did Pippin hire? Who were the first hires he had?
Very first person I hired full-time was Sean Davis, followed quickly by Andrew Monroe, who goes by Sumobi, and then Chris Klasowski.
What do you look for in your hires? Like what type of characteristics and what type of skills?
So there are some skills that are dependent upon the role that they're being hired for. Are they developer? Are they support? Are they documentation? But there's one to me that is important for all the positions, no matter what it is, development, support, docs, or anything else, and that is being self-driven and self-managing. I am not a manager, and while I may technically run the company, I am not there to delegate tasks on a day-to-day basis. And so being able to self-manage is huge.
Right. Thanks for that. What about David? What do you think?
To echo what Jonathan said, running a business is a lot. There are a lot of other skill sets required than just building a product or building a website, doing a service. There are a lot more things that you need to learn. And what I found is with a lot of us in our cases and a lot of people I've met, we start out building things. We think, oh, this is a cool thing, and maybe other people will want this, and then kind of like jump into the deep end of figuring out how to actually work with people as clients as opposed to just making cool things.
Clients are not people. Oh, no, I'm kidding. I'm joking.
Yeah, they are.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are.
Clients are not people. Clients are like
friends. Steve Zanger says friends.
They're very delicate orchids. They need to be cared for, so they can flourish.
Yeah.
Well, go on then, Adam. What would you contribute to this?
So, it's interesting. Business, having an idea is one thing. Everyone has ideas. Implementation and follow through are the core elements, I think. And then of course, like Pippin said, know your strengths and hire appropriately. If your strength is management, great. You don't need a product manager. If you need a developer, if you need someone to run the books for you or cook the books for you, it depends on what angle you're going for. Sorry. It just depends on, you need them to do what you do best, outsource them, or bring in the rest. That wasn't supposed to be a rhyme or anything. I'm not a poet, if you didn't know it. But you just really want to do what you do best. Focus on that, and surround yourself by everyone else really who has strengths that can help you.
All right, great. What about you, John?
Biggest thing that I've learned so far is you got to manage expectations correctly. Whether you're working with other people, whether you're working with clients, a lot of it comes down to letting them know, what the boundaries are, what you're going to do, when you're going to do it, and knowing what they can expect from you. And that actually cuts down on a lot of problems if you manage your expectations from the start, because it's a void that they try and fill.
Yeah. Pippin, you discussed this on your podcast, Applied Filters, I think with your co-host, about the process that you've employed and connected to hiring people. Is anything that you would like to add to that? Because I think your co-host spoke about his methodology about hiring, but I don't think you actually said.
Sure.
Have you learned, to approach that differently through the few years that you've been hiring people?
Yeah. So the philosophy that Brad, my co-host, has really been advocating, and I'm definitely an advocate of it now as well, is going through a trial period. And I know there's a lot of other companies that do the same way. So instead of just courting somebody and then doing your interviews and what have not, and then just hiring them, go through a trial process. Give them a month. Treat them like an employee, a full-time team member during that time, and you see how it goes. It's known on both ends that if things don't work out for whatever reason at the end of the month, that's it. But at that point, then, in the course of a month, you can really figure out how well you're going to work together as a team, and it makes it a lot safer, a much safer process for anybody who's hired people full time. And if you go through the process of insurance and unemployment taxes and city taxes and state taxes, all of that is a real pain in the ass. And what you don't want to do is not only find out that you've hired somebody that's the wrong person, and then you have to fire them, and, well, that all sucks, but then just the management aspects of it. And so going through a trial phase is a great idea. It's not something that we've done with every person that we've hired, but it's something we will always do in the future, probably.
Yeah. I'd also like to ask you another quick question and then go to the rest of the panel, because the panel's quite very experienced. But I think you've got a well-established business on the plugin side. So when you said you were looking at, you made a mistake not hiring early, was that due to control, or was that your cash flow was going up and down so much, and you were a bit frightened about hiring somebody? What were the factors on reflection that stopped you from hiring?
I think looking back on it, it was probably partially control. I've always been a do-it-myself kind of person, whether we're talking about plugin development or wiring the plugs in my bathroom or fixing the plumbing. I've always been a do-it-myself. It's kind of how I grew up in my family, and so that was just natural to me, just to say, oh, we need to send out a newsletter? Okay, I'll do it. We need to do customer support? Okay, I'll do it. And eventually it just got to the point where I couldn't manage it all, and so hiring was a necessity. But it's still, I think, relinquishing that control was still difficult. Not because of not trusting the people that we choose to hire, but simply because of that natural, I'm going to do it myself mentality. Cash flow was not really an issue at the time. We've had pretty good growth, and that's something we're very fortunate of.
Right. What about you, Jonathan? I know that you're very active business-wise. Do you have a kind of mixture of any staff that you hired, and then you have a lot of freelancers? How do you mix? What's your experience of hiring freelancers to help you and more full-time staff, maybe?
To piggyback off of what Pippin said, you do kind of get into that mindset of, I do this and I do things a certain way, and can I have somebody do this the same way that I do? So there is a little bit of control that you do have to let go, but exactly what he said is just give them a trial, let them try a project, do something first before you commit fully to them, and then if they do a good job, then for me, I'll just continue to give them work, or if it's not so good, then it kind of slows down. But that's kind of like the process in which I go by.
Yeah, what about you, Adam? Because you've been self-employed for a long time. You've had a mixture of working for people and also for extended periods being self-employed. Do you think that's hard when, for somebody that's doing it themselves, even when they know they need to actually give up control, Adam?
It is. It's extremely hard. I mean, honestly, I've made a conscious effort this year, starting back in January, to where if I'm going to outsource something, if I think I'm going to hire someone for a specific project, I decide that immediately. Because if you don't, unless you have somebody on staff or a consistent basis, and finding that good person, that good fit, takes time. And I haven't found that person yet for what I need. I had a few people, one developer, one designer, copywriter, but my developer had some life issues, so I don't use that person anymore. But it was unfortunate, dropped the ball on something. We're still friends, but I decide if I can't do it myself, I need to decide within the first day, because otherwise, if I wait a few days to think about it, I'm already behind. Based on back on what Locke said as far as managing expectations of client and relationships. So I go back to that. I'm like, okay, if I'm going to outsource this, I decide right away. If I don't, then I just have to suck it up and do it myself, which is fine. And I don't want to be greedy. It's not about the money. It's about what can I manage myself. Because at the end of the day, I want to run a business that's profitable, not a non-profitable. I mean, my joke is I run a non-profitable business, like not a non-profit. I mean, I make money. It just depends on how you word it. It depends on when the money comes in. And I'm owed some money right now. I have people owe me a chunk of money now. Yeah. So you have to make the decision quick. How do you manage it, the expectation? How do you manage the workflow? And I say no to work now too. So real quick, I want to add one more thing. I also came back from a WordCamp this year from San Diego, and I now charge for discovery. Plain and simple. I will give you 5 minutes on the 5 minutes on the phone, and that's it. After that, if I meet with you in person or anything longer in Skype or Hangout, I charge for discovery because I can't afford to work for free.
What about David? What's your views about this and your experience?
I definitely think the phrase, be slow to hire, quick to fire is very important. It's really easy when, in my case, when I've needed someone to fill a certain role, to kind of get into this like honeymoon phase of going, oh, you're the, it's love at first sight. You're the perfect person. You do everything just as needed, and everything's great. And then maybe a familiarity comes, where I've had some times where someone's dropped the ball on a project and not gotten it done on time, or maybe I took people at their word for skills without actually testing them. There have been a couple of times just where I found, okay, it's not the best fit, and so I'm trying to get better at making sure that the fit is there before hiring them, as opposed to as opposed to just hoping that it works out.
A bit like what Pippin just expressed, really.
Yeah, and I definitely agree. Having people on test projects, or not test, but having people on individual project basis before going all in is very important.
What about Sally? What's your feelings about this, Sally?
I'm finding that what I need to do before I can delegate more, before I could say I would love to hire someone to do project management, but I need to define my processes more clearly and write them down, because otherwise I cannot expect somebody else to follow them, and I can't automate anything, and I can't. So this is where I'm trying to do right now.
Yeah,
I think that's if you don't mind jumping in for a second, I think that's a super important point that we figured out the hard way. When we've hired our first few people, I didn't really have any of those processes written out or figured out what they were. We didn't have any policies or even just guidelines on how things are done. It was just kind of, well, there's support, there's development, go get started. And just never really realized that that doesn't work very well. And there's a reason. It made me realize I don't really like formal policies that well, but there's a reason they exist. And definitely found that to be very true.
It's a balance, isn't it, Pippin? I think it's you're a small company, so you want that agility. You don't want it to become too stuffy and formal, because that could affect your ability to adapt to market trends, couldn't it? But on the other hand, you do need some structure, don't you, Pippin?
Right. Well, and some of that structure, having those processes figured out and written out even, and having them all documented, is not just about, hey, this is the way we do things. It's also onboarding. When you hire a new team member, unless they're already intimately familiar with how you do everything, they have to learn somehow. And so you either sit down and teach them, and you take time out of your day or the day of someone else on the team, or you hand them the pre-written guidelines, the instruction booklet, basically, that gets them the introduction at least. Yeah,
because not since I've got into the world of WordPress, but when I was in the United Kingdom, Britain, I had over 30 people working for me, Pippin, and I learned the hard way that you needed a manual, you needed documentation, you needed some structure, otherwise it became I really learned the hard way, because I was a bit like you. I didn't really want to do it, but I learned the hard way that you got to do it.
Yep. I always thought it was weird that you have internal company documentation, and then I figured out that, oh, there's a reason that exists.
Yeah. I was going to ask you a quick kind of secondary question that wasn't on our list.
Okay.
Yeah, go on, Adam. Basically, Pippin, I was reading. What's your position on partnerships, on commercial partnerships, or kind of doing kind of deals with other kind of WordPress to kind of build your business up, or have you always shied away from partnerships, kind of formal or informal?
I have no issue with them at all. I mean, there's definitely a lot of different kinds of partnerships. Like, are we talking about I own 50% of the company and you own 50% of the company, or more of a, okay, we are both independent agencies and we're going to collaborate on this project? Which one are you really asking about?
Either, really, because there was an article that was sent to me by Steve Limmer about, one of the factors that, he found really constructive was to find really good partners, and that really helped, accelerates growth. That you can't do everything yourself. There are risks finding partners.
Okay, so along those lines, I think it's really important. And if you can find the right partner or partners, they can be invaluable to you. Just as an example, one of our projects, which is Affiliate WP, the affiliate marketing plugin that we sell, that one started as a partnership with Andrew Monroe from day one. And it is 10 times bigger or more because of that partnership than if I had done it myself.
It's a fantastic plugin, I might add. I'm one of your customers, Pippin.
I appreciate it.
You got my money. What's your experience on partnerships and that, Adam? Go on.
Oh, that, I don't have any partnerships in the sense of business, more of referrals. Like, if somebody wants to work with me or collaborate, I'll outsource something. It depends. For example, I just did a job yesterday, and part of the job was a site and a logo. And they're two separate things. And I was very clear with the client that the logo is above and beyond, and I could outsource it, or I could refer it. And in this case, I'm going to sub it out, I think, just because I think it'll work out better for me to manage this other person. She's newer to business and younger. So I think it might be better for me to manage that way. And she's good and she's really cheap. So I can. I want to help her. I want to educate her, but not yet.
Child labour. What about you, David? What's your experience about partnerships? Formal, informal. Have you had good experience, bad experiences?
Generally good experiences. It's besides being able to offload some work and offload specifically things that I'm not very good at, that usually means someone who has a different skill set than I do, so a different viewpoint. So not only am I getting the bonus of an extra set of hands, but an extra set of eyes and an extra head too to maybe see different ways to solve a problem that I might not have done, or different ways to handle a problem I might not have done.
I have a question though, David. I have a question for the panel. So if you outsource, not outsource, if you refer something, if anyone has an answer to this, do you expect a referral fee, or is it something you discuss ahead of time?
I do not. No. I know some people do.
What if it's a $15,000 project?
It'd be nice. I generally hope for a maybe a thought back later. Usually when I do referrals, it's either for projects that are out of my range, for either I don't have enough time, or the budget is too low for me, or too high for me, and then preferably I hope that those people will
reciprocate later.
Reciprocate, and that has worked out in the past. I've had some reciprocal projects. I don't tell people to do it because I don't really think that would work, but most people are going to think, oh, okay, I know this person, and he's done something for me before.
If you're doing referral fees, you better have an agreement ahead of time. Just referring a project to someone and then finding out they did it and going to them and saying, "Oh, you owe me $5,000." That's not cool.
No, that would be bad. So Adam, do you pay referral fees to people?
It's never come my way. I've always referred. I've taken jobs. People know me somehow, and they come to me and they trust me, and I refer work out. And some of them are small stuff, no big deal. Some is big stuff. It's always that weird thing, and I have, why am I presenting to everybody? That's weird. I don't want to present everything. It's tough. That's weird.
Oh, it seems to be fine, Adam.
Okay, good. So my screen's something, John, I think Bill's doing something crazy, so. Anyway.
Well, he is the wizard, Adam.
Yeah. There we go. So, no, I've just referred jobs. I have referred work out to people. Some of it has worked out well, some hasn't. And I hear both sides of it as well. I hear from the person who contacted me, and I say, I'll connect someone, let's say, to John Locke. And that person has had me look at the site, and John Locke, for example, will do the site. So I know John's getting paid, So it's worked out so far so good for the most part. I don't expect it. I think, like Pippin was saying, if it's something that you were expecting, you have to work that out ahead of time. Like, okay, look, I'm not a BNI group. I'm not going to refer stuff out and expect 10% every time. I just, it's more of a community base, and that's how I work it. If it's $50,000, I'm going to hope for something. So.
What about you, John? What's your experience on this?
Well, I've had other people like refer me stuff, and I've referred other stuff to other people. And the thing of it is sometimes those referrals work out, and sometimes they don't. And when I've referred jobs out to other people because it was more in another person's wheelhouse, I've never said like, hey, you owe me a referral fee. If I'm gonna send somebody to another person, I'm doing it because I think it's a good fit.
Right.
And I'm doing it because it's in the client's best interest. And while we're all here to make money, you got to make money to survive and to stay in business. I don't want decisions to be motivated like strictly because I'm trying to make money.
That's the old school of the affiliate relationships of just shilling for shill's sake.
Yep.
What about you, Jonathan? What's your views and practices around this?
Well, almost my entire business is basically run on partnerships. I white label a lot of my work, my designs, my development. So it's very important for me to partner up with agencies or freelancers because essentially they're my client and they're putting my work for their client. So I build all of my relationships and businesses based on those partnerships.
Can I ask you a quick question about that? Do you
Sure.
think it's a kind of strange area? Do you think the client, is there kind of moral thing that the client should really know who's doing the work when it comes to the bottom line, or do you think it really doesn't matter?
I think if my client, the developer or the agency, already has a relationship with their client, it really doesn't matter who does it, because who's to say if they have 50 employees or 10 employees or they freelance developers? I kind of see it as the same thing. So they manage the client side of it, and then I just make sure that they're happy with the work that's delivered.
Jonathan Denwood, when you go to get your tires changed at Pep Boys, you make the order at the counter. Do you expect the person at the counter to go to change your tires?
I can't afford to have my tyres changed.
Well, it doesn't matter. All that matters is that you get.
I've invested my life savings in a startup and a SaaS. I'm so crazy.
But I'm talking about. But so the theory is the client needs to get what they want within budget and time frame agreed upon. Who does the work shouldn't matter as long as it's done professionally, within time, and within budget.
Yep.
Yeah, I understand it. Pippin, I'm going to go on to another subject, and I like your feedback. So it was on WordPress TV. Can you run a successful WordPress business based on WordPress plugins and on the add-on model? And I thought this was a kind of question really down your road because you've had a kind of experience in both camps. You've had, and I really like your thoughts on this. So would you like to say something about that, Pippin?
Sure. Well, the short answer is yes, absolutely. We and my team have a successful business. So in this case, we're talking about easy digital downloads. That is using the add-ons model, and that in this case, that means that we're giving the core platform away for free, and we sell upgrades to it. We have a full-time team of 6 people that are all paid well, and we're profitable. So yes, we are successful. Beyond that, it's everybody's own personal measurement of successes. Depends. But that doesn't mean it's easy. I will tell you that if I was to start another business tomorrow, I would not go the add-on route, usually.
Oh, right. Can you give some ideas on why you've come to that conclusion?
So there's a variety of reasons. Number one is that running a marketplace. I think there's 2 kinds of ways that you could run the add-ons model. One is you can do all the add-ons in-house. All of the add-on features are in-house. You build them, you sell them. Or you can run a marketplace where you build some, third parties build some, and you sell them. And so you manage commissions for those third-party authors. Running a marketplace is hard. It is the hardest job I think I've ever had, and it is so easy to get behind and to get buried. Maybe you have 30 submissions waiting for you to review. I can tell you right now we have add-ons that have been sitting in the queue for 6 months. Things like that. Those are challenges that you run into that you don't really expect. But so depending on which model you take will make things a little easier or more difficult. But the other one, and this is the one that I think a lot of people forget about, is just because you have a really great core plugin that is free does not mean that people will pay for add-ons when you release them. So let's say you release a plugin and it does something really, really cool, and then you build a really awesome new feature and you release it as an add-on and you price it at $25. No one buys it. And you start wondering to yourself, why? We've got 20,000 people using the free plugin. Why is not even 20 people buying the pro feature that we've released? Why? And it's mind-boggling. And it was an answer that took me I think about 2 years to really figure out. But it's actually very simple. The answer is that if you want to be successful with the add-on model, your add-ons must be features that people absolutely need. That they are not necessarily mandatory to run the business. Your base plugin still has to function on its own and has to allow somebody to run a site successfully without paying for an upgrade. Because otherwise, if it can't run on its own, you could call it broken, you could call it crippled, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
So it still needs to stand on its own. But you have to offer add-ons that people absolutely need. So let's look at the e-commerce world, for example. In e-commerce, if you're selling something, doesn't matter what you're selling, you have to have a way to accept a payment. So out of the box, we support PayPal Standard and, as of recently, Amazon Payments. However, a lot of people don't want to use PayPal. A lot of people don't want to use Amazon. People want to use Stripe. People want to use Authorize.net. They want to process credit cards directly on their site. And so suddenly they need that feature. So guess what our #1 selling add-on is? Stripe.
Right.
Because people need it. And so therefore people are willing to pay for it. People are willing to pay for things that they need, not nice-to-haves. Nice-to-haves will never sell very much, but things that they need will sell a lot. And so if you build a business around those kinds of add-ons, you could be successful. But if you only have nice-to-haves, it probably won't go very far.
Oh, thanks for that. What about Sally? What's your feelings around the question that people said things to you? You gonna unmute?
I think Pippin has it absolutely. It's you know, there are clearly several premium plugins that operate on the basis of selling extensions. You know, WooCommerce works that way. iThemes Exchange works that way. And in most cases, you know, there's not you can do stuff with just the free plugin, but you're pretty darn likely to need at least one of the extensions. So you're going to end up paying for something. Yeah, if your extensions are not something that people need, you know, they're not going to fork out the money.
Yeah, thanks for that, Sally. Adam, I was just going to put a quick additional thing to you, Adam. You know, like WooCommerce, you know, they've got a lot of additional add-ons. And do you think the kind of customer base can get a bit annoyed with having to pay for all these additional add-ons? Do you think where's the balance, Adam, or do you think there is a kind of friction there?
What was that, David?
Said I see Pippin nodding like crazy.
Yeah, I think the break point is people's flinch factor. I mean, I can give case in point. I just told the story last night. I spoke at a user group. My old flinch factor was 0. Like, I was the cheapest bastard around when it came to the premium plugin, or the plugin for social media widget or whatever. It was free for the left side, $15 to the right. So I would spend a day looking at the code and figuring out how did the developer do it, how did they lock it down. I would waste 8 hours or more, and the plugin was $15. Now my flinch factor as a developer, as you know, as someone who's doing work for clients, is about 200. Wait, no, let me change it, Pippin. It's still $25. You know, it's about $200. I mean, I always buy the developer level so I can reuse it on as many sites as I want. I think if it's a one-off purchase, that flinch factor has to be, like Pippin said, it has to be based on a need versus a nice-to-have, and they don't want to be nickel and dime. You know, do they have to then pay for the upgrade again if there's an update to it, or is it just the base that gets updated for like a version 3 to 4, 4 to 5? It's a couple of those wacky things that come down to the updates, renewals, not updates, but renewals and licensing later. I, without question, update. I pay for Gravity Forms every year at developer level. I mean, there's always a coupon out there, so I get half price anyways. But hey, I'm frugal. I'm not rich. Yeah, I think it's just a matter of it's an individual choice on how people see the perceived value. So without being nickel and dime.
Yeah. What about you, David? What's your feeling about?
Well, I mean, I know that WooCommerce had a highly publicized problem with people who had a problem with the nickeling and diming, I'd say. Although I don't really think... So as someone who builds sites for other people for a living, I don't think it's a problem so much as... Or excuse me, I don't think you need all of the different add-ons unless you're just like... just kind of wanting to have everything just to have everything. Like, oh, you know what? Maybe I do want to offer social discounts. And you know what? Maybe I do need a third payment thing. And you didn't think about it in the first place. Sometimes I browsed Pippin's site just to, just to go, you know what? Yeah, I am going to try this thing out. And I've purchased and tried features from you that I wouldn't have even thought existed beforehand.
We appreciate the purchase.
I just got a slew of emails actually yesterday with like 8 different items that are up for renewal. Anyway, no. So, wow, I had a point. Right. So one nice thing about
it's old age, Dave. It gets us all with the end.
No, one nice thing about the add-on model, as very popular with e-commerce plugins, is that I'm not getting a stunted feature. Like if I get the free version of Easy Digital Downloads, it works just fine. I'm getting a base feature set, and then if I happen to be the person who needs, Stripe versus PayPal versus Authorized, whatever, I can get the exact one I need, as Pippin said. But one thing that I think that was kind of overlooked is that I get as many features as I need to start out. So I'm not blindly going in. If I had to pay for Easy Digital Downloads, the base plugin, I probably would have never tried it versus trying one of them that was free, because how would I know before buying it if it was terrible to add new products, or if they looked crappy on my site, or if the flow from checkout, from purchase to checkout was any good. I was able to try all those things out, play around with it, and determine if it fit my needs better than WooCommerce in a certain case or iThemes Exchange in a different case. And then decide, okay, now that I know I'm going to use it, I'm going to buy those add-ons.
Yeah, I'm going to go to the other couple panelists, but I want to kind of go back to Pippin. I think I don't know if you would agree with this, Pippin. I think one of the problems with something, I did kind of add that thing about WooCommerce, but what I think most people don't understand, they're not involved in coding, is they don't really understand what a bargain they're getting with WordPress, really. It's such a shock for clients where you have to hire really good developers and you're doing custom plugin development, and to get quality, the price difference. Do you think that's a kind of the Achilles heel of WordPress in some ways, Pippin?
I think it's really the Achilles heel of just about any open source or free software that you're running businesses on top of, that you're monetizing. When you have people that are so used to getting things for free, you can download WordPress for free, you download plugins for free or whatever, and then suddenly you slap a $49 price tag on one, there's a lot of people that react to that kind of a knee-jerk reaction and think, why would I pay $49? Like, where do I get the value in that? And that's really an education and a perspective thing.
Yeah, I do. What about you, Jonathan? What's your feelings around this?
I think the price point pays I think you should price the add-ons according to the value that they're bringing, because sometimes add-ons, I know with WooCommerce, I hate to keep bringing them back up, but I saw like an export add-on that was like $80 just to export, I think it was like email addresses or something like that. And I'm kind of looking at it like, the average Joe Schmo that just wants an e-commerce site, maybe they want something, or they have a little business, but they're not making like $15,000, $20,000 a month, and then to have all these add-ons to run their business could be kind of hard. So I like Pippin's plugin because a lot of his plugins are affordable, and you can do the, hey, I want to try this out because it's only $20 or it's $40, and then if you don't like it, then you don't renew it. But you know, it's kind of more of an impulse where you want to try it, as opposed to dropping $100 on something that you're not sure if you're going to like or not. So there's no point in upgrading it or making that further purchase. So that's my feeling on that.
What about you, John?
Well, I would say this: the plugins that are popular, where it's a freemium model, the WooCommerce, the easy digital downloads. There's a lot of stability in having the free plugin, and then add-ons, because the developers and the people out there who don't know that much about WordPress can try the free version, and they can see that it's stable and they can get 90% of what they need. But I think with easy digital downloads and WooCommerce and the other types of plugins that have premium add-ons, there are people that it's worth it to them to buy 2, 3, 4 different plugins for WooCommerce, because they don't want to lose the person that's going to purchase with Authorize, or they don't want to lose the person that's going to purchase with Amazon, or they want to make things just that much easier and reduce the friction that much more. Now, if you're just starting out and you're only making $100 a month on your site, you're probably not going to invest like $100 in a premium add-on. But if you're making, $500, $1,000 a month, then it's going to be worth it to you to start investing more and more into your site. So I think the freemium model is a good idea. And as long as Pippin said, as long as you're offering things that people absolutely have to have, that they can tie like a value to, like if I add this to my site, then I'm gonna get that peace of mind, or I'm gonna get those extra sales, or my funnel is gonna be that much tighter, and those people aren't gonna bounce off of my site. They're gonna complete that sale.
Yeah.
Hey, Jonathan, panel, we've got about 4 or 5 minutes left. Real quick input question here. We didn't really talk about WordPress.
I didn't know we had a time limit here, Bill.
6:15 people have to go.
All right.
So we're going to start losing the panel. We'll shut off. 6:15. We can go on a few more minutes longer. But we didn't really go over the news of WordPress. The other thing, too, is something big happened. Windows 10 came out. It's a free download. And I was doing a little blogging. It's actually affecting the internet a little bit, the downloads. So, did anybody install Windows 10 out there?
Nope.
Don't even know what it is, Bill.
What's Windows?
What's
free.
Windows?
I have both.
Do a total reinstall.
I have Windows out in the other room. I don't have Windows in this office.
I sell them.
I just want to, Pippin, I just want to ask you another quick question. There's a lot of Premier plugin providers that go into the SaaS model, and I've got different feelings about that. Have you been tempted with your main plugins to look at the SaaS model and go down that road?
We have one. It's in progress now. It does not have even a remote time frame for when it will go live, but it's in progress. I think ultimately if you really want to scale a business, especially on the internet, and it's something that can be turned into a SaaS, it's where you're gonna. I think it'll be many, many, many times more successful than selling a product.
Right. Do you feel that there's any downside to it, though?
If your servers die, your business struggles a lot. That's a big one.
So in other words,
something small. Anything major, Pippin. I mean, we're looking for something really problematic. I'm thinking that's supposed to be.
All right, then. So I want to ask you another question, Pippin.
Sure.
Basically, you're a very busy man, but you're very approachable. I've been very critical of myself lately around my time management, about getting stuff done. have you got any advice? Because you seem to hold a lot of hats and you seem to do a lot of stuff, Pippin. Do you not sleep, or have you?
No, it's actually. I think it's the opposite. I actually sleep 8 hours a night, and I think that makes a huge difference.
And I can I testify to that. Not that I've seen him sleep. That just sounds weird. But about 2 weeks ago, I got an email from Pippin, from the e-blasts that go out about EDB. And I checked. I was reading the blog post. I forgot what it was about. Sorry. And I go to the website and read it, and up pops the window, the live chat. It's like, hi, any questions? I'm like, pretty good for now, but I just spoke about something about your, one of your plugins to a student of mine, the class I teach. I go, and by the way, if this is Pippin, hi. He's like, it is Pippin. I'm like, hey, it's Adam. I was like, hey, Adam. I don't know if you remember that. I was like,
I do.
3 weeks ago. And it was like early. It was 8:30 a.m. Pacific. So it was early for us. I mean, but yeah, he's working. He's up and doing stuff at normal hours, which is impressive. I was very impressed.
No, I have. He answered some personally some queries.
He initiated it. That was what's caught me. Like, wow, that's pretty cool.
We were testing a live chat system.
Yeah.
And, had a lot of fun with it. It was kind of cool.
Yeah, but be serious, Pippin. Have you got any kind of advice to about time management and getting things really done? Because I'm struggling really. I'm
Sure.
very critical about how I'm getting stuff done.
I think one of the most important, for me at least, was defining a schedule. And so I work the same time every day. I work whether we're working 8 or 10 hours or 7 hours. It doesn't really matter how many hours you want to work a day. Work the same schedule. So for me, it's really I work 8:30 to 5:30 every day, and that has been the biggest thing because between that time I'm working.
Right.
Outside of that time, there's days that I stick around and I work longer, or there's days that I just can't do it and I bail out. But putting myself in the mindset that yep, I'm on the job, I'm in the office, let's get things done. I think that's very, very beneficial. But I think that's one of the biggest things that people struggle with when working from home. Because, well, your kitchen's right there, your TV's right there, my Xbox is downstairs.
That beer's right next to you, I see that.
It is. Yeah.
What beer is it, actually?
This is a Love Child from Boulevard. It is a American Wild Ale.
Hey, Pippin, you're Midwest. Where are you coming from?
Kansas.
Kansas, that's right. Where in Kansas?
Hutchinson.
Oh, Hutchinson, okay.
Right in the middle.
Long way. That's a small town in the middle of nowhere.
It is, pretty
My
much.
honeymoon there. I didn't.
Let's get back to the beer bit, Pippin.
I was curious how that affects you being out in the middle of nowhere with your business.
It doesn't affect me at all. Everything's online. I have good internet, and that's all I really need to run the business.
Yep.
Yeah.
It affects me mentally sometimes.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's very lovely out in Kansas.
No, Kansas City's got that 1,000 up, 1,000 down too.
Yeah, I don't have that. My brother has it.
All right. Well, let's get to the serious business, Pippin, the beer. So, is that your favourite then?
This is one of my top 3 beers in the world for sure.
Are you a connoisseur then, Pippin?
Coors Light being number 1, right?
Coors Light's pretty far down on the bottom. I really do love my beers.
I'm kidding. I don't know how people drink Coors Light. I mean, hey, no offense if you like it and you're from the Rockies.
I don't know. I just needed something to cool myself down. It's pretty hot here. So I just want to go on to the last question quickly, and then we'll wrap this up. So basically, I'd like to ask the panel their individual experiences connected to their highs and lows working with WordPress. And I'll give that to Pippin again. Is there any? So, would you like to share maybe a high and a low with WordPress that's still burnt into the psyche of your mind, Pippin?
The high is meeting some of my best friends in the world that I've ever had, and getting to be connected with them, getting to know them, and realizing that due to this this web of relationships and friends that we built online, that if needed to, we can travel almost anywhere, any major city in the world, and have someone that you know. And I think that's very cool. That's not something that anyone could have said 10, 20 years ago. And I think that's a very new thing, but it's very, very cool. And the low is the ever-crushing burden of always having things waiting on you. Having monstrous to-do lists, having a lot of people waiting for you to get back to them, having plugins waiting for reviewed, and being unable to ever truly disconnect, I think is which has a lot of other psychological effects that are less than pleasant sometimes. I think that would be my biggest low.
Oh, thanks for that, Pippin. What about you, Adam? Your highs and lows being involved in the crazy world of WordPress.
Well, my highs were different at WordCamp Denver. No, thank you. Highs and lows. Highs. It's interesting if you guys have been paying attention to the whole community aspect and the imposter syndrome and whatnot. Lately, it's gone around some of the community angles, especially with Corey Miller from iThink. I know Corey as well. Stuff like that. It's hard sometimes to feel accepted, especially when we work kind of in a solopreneur environment, and someone always knows more than you. But you can always help somebody behind you. So I try to look back a lot. I still have the lows of like, do I really? Am I a fraud? Am I faking this? Do I make it? Well, yep. No, for one. As far as the to-dos, the list that Pippin says, I have nothing behind me to do on that board. Where's that board? I have nothing behind me on this board to do.
It's totally white.
Totally. Yeah. That's not important at all. I have a new thing. It's supposed to launch September 1 with my daughter. It's like, let's see that. So the lows are knowing, can I get this all done and manage family time as well? Working those hours. I have another job right now. I'm a director of social media for a company, which I'm not a big fan of the company, as some of the people on the panel know. And I sometimes I have a hard time coming home and being here at my home office and doing more work because I'm so soul drained from the day of what I've just wasted 8 hours of my life to do. That said, the highs are when people do I get emails lately from the podcast, and people do like the content they're putting out and the trainings I'm doing. So that's kind of nice. Those are the nice highs. The lows are just
you contributed a hell of a lot to the WordPress community.
I try.
What about you, Jonathan?
Highs is definitely networking. Definitely meeting all sorts of awesome people and doing things like this, being on panels and podcasts and just meeting all different types of entrepreneurs, I think is like one of the best highs being involved in this. For the lows, for me, it was, I don't know, I guess kind of trying to find your path, like find that thing that you want to do, and then experimenting, and then saying, oh, did I waste my time with that, or should I keep doing this, or let me switch it? I mean, everything's a learning experience, but sometimes those things could kind of eat away at you and can be a little discouraging, but, you live and grow.
What about you, David?
To echo everyone else, highs, definitely the community. There's a lot of support here. I love traveling to WordCamps like Adam. Try to go to, good half dozen at least a year, just because it's great to, well, one, put a name to a face with people that I interact with all the time online, but two, just have those regular friends that they only get to see every once in a while. Lows?
Yeah, come on.
I don't know. I think Corey's talk was very important. I think it was very very strong that he did that. I think that's something that is really hard for people to want to open up about and want to talk about, because there's maybe stigma around having those kinds of discussions. But
yeah, but David, I also think it's partly due to the American. Don't you think it's also down to the American culture?
I can't say whether the culture is just American or not, but I guess from my view as an American, I would say yes. There's absolutely there's nothing wrong with you coming out and telling someone oh, I broke my leg, or oh, I have cancer. But it's really hard to come out and say, oh, I'm having other problems that you can't see them on the surface, but they're still important things. They're still things that affect whether I get out of bed to get to work, or whether whether I let the ball drop on something, or whatever.
I also think, David, the freelance business has some great benefits, but it's also a tough game, isn't it?
It benefits, but drawbacks as well. I work part of the time out of a co-working space just so I have the ability to get out of the house and be around other people. There are the benefits. The benefits can also be a burden. that ability to do whatever you want whenever you want means that you could also do nothing for as long as you want.
Yeah, that's true. What about you, John?
Well, definitely there's some highs and lows. For me personally, I don't know about anybody else, but when I first started, it was definitely a lot of lows because I really didn't know what I was doing at first. This is about 3 years ago. And, I kind of learned by making mistakes, and, I think I've gotten better. Lows now are really just, kind of the self-doubt that you feel sometimes. Sometimes you feel like, maybe am I really cut out for this? Can I, really make it like doing this? But the highs are like every day that you do succeed in making it, and every day that you are able to support yourself, doing web development and building sites and plugins in WordPress. And I think the community is definitely a big part of that. Because
I agree with you, John. I don't want it to become a WordPress fan base thing, but I have been really impressed in general with the WordPress community, the kind of quality of individuals and the openness of a lot of really top people to people. What about you, Sally? What's your what's been your highs and your lows?
Well, there's definitely a high in learning to do things and doing them successfully, and then sharing how you did them with your meetup, or in a tutorial or something, and the available resources are amazing, and the community. I remember Andrea saying once, both the best thing and the worst thing about WordPress is the community. Sometimes things are a little controversial or people are not welcoming, but most of the time it's awesome. And I would say the low is, coping with those expectations that because WordPress itself is free, any kind of work you do on it should be free or cheap, or, that kind of devaluation, and having to, constantly establish a value proposition.
Yeah. Well, thanks, panel. I'm just going to ask Pippin, is there any real stuff that you would like to promote that's coming up for digital downloads? Any major updates that you would like to
all the add-ons are free!
They're all free!
They're free! Yeah. Go on, Pippin.
And you get a car, and you get a plugin, and you get an add-on.
There's two major updates that we've been working on for the last couple of weeks. One of them is actually a new add-on that is all about combating fraud. And e-commerce fraud is a huge problem, especially in digital e-commerce. Whether we're talking stolen PayPal accounts or stolen credit cards, it's a big problem, and it can be very, very expensive. I learned the hard way one month when I just went pretty negative because of a whole lot of fraud, just about got my Stripe account closed and things like that, that fraud is very important.
Yeah, you discussed this on your applied filters podcast. I think you said it was almost, you got hit for almost 20,000, I think you said.
Man, I don't even remember now, but it was a lot. It was painful. And it was that month we just said, nope, not happening again. Let's fix this. And so we over the next 6 months or so, we built an internal tool that we used for the next year and a half, and now we've been revamping it and getting ready to release it. So it will be available to others who are serious about combating fraud. And if you've ever had one chargeback and seen just how expensive they are, you'll understand why you want it. And then the other thing that we're getting ready to release is an update to our software licensing extension, which is one of our primary extensions that allows people to sell license keys. It's especially used in other WordPress businesses, people selling plugins or people selling themes. It helps deliver updates to customers and things like that. It helps you verify that a license key is legitimate. And we've just been building a new feature that will allow people to upgrade licenses. So if you have, let's say you have a 3-tier system where you have a single site, a 5-site license, and an unlimited site license, customers will now be able to upgrade between those sites on predefined upgrade paths. Or we'll be able to upgrade across products, maybe upgrade from a single product to a bundle a product or something like that. So that's going out hopefully sometime next week or the week after.
Oh, great, Pippin. I just want to say thank you for so much for coming on the show, Pippin, and also your contribution to the WordPress community. I've got to admit, I am a total fanboy, and you're kind of one of my WordPress heroes. I'm sorry to be such a fanboy, but you are.
People you can't see behind that curtain, he has a big fat head of you right behind that curtain. Maybe in the show, he took it out this time. He didn't want to be all embarrassed.
Yeah, it's a great highlight to have you on
And
the show.
Jonathan, did your tattoo heal of Pippin as well?
Yeah, I'm going tomorrow actually.
It's on his back.
I'm going to have the furs shaved. I'm going to have a tattoo.
Is it like the size of Steve-O's? He's got himself on his back.
Yeah.
Yeah, but seriously, thanks, Pippin. It's been a pleasure having you on the show. And thank you, panel. I think I've tried to keep things going, and I think we've covered some interesting topics. And it's been aimed at the professional developer, and thank you for coming, and hopefully you've enjoyed it as well, right? And thanks for my co-host, the Wizard.
So, signing off from all over the United States. We've got New York today, Midwest, a lot of LA, the Bay Area, John, Sacramento.
Who else is in LA besides me?
Where are you, Jonathan?
New York.
Where in New York, Queen?
Staten Island.
Staten Island, that's right.
Yeah.
Right, thanks, folks. I'm going off now. You're gonna cut it. You're gonna cut the live feed.
Yeah, let me cut the live feed. We'll go over a couple of admin things.
Yeah. Thanks, folks.